Yeah, I'm going to get us started. Okay, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for your patience. Technology, we're trying to do like non-Zoom. So you're probably going to hear some hissing white noise. So it's the camera that we have. We're just going to go with this because we wanted to start at 7 and it's 7:30. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. If you can't hear us, then that's, I don't know. So we're going to go and do this. As you go along, if you have a question, please let me know through the chat here. I can't guarantee that we'll get through them all. I'm going to introduce some people here around me so you know who they are. This is Jason Zoller. He is the president of SRO, and he's going to be kind of our moderator. He has some already questions ready to go, and he's going to utilize that. I am Jason Burgess. I am the director of the theater program in Charlie Brown. This is Amy Burgess, the choreographer for Charlie Brown, and Beth Rowland, Mrs. Rowland, who is the music director of the production as well. Before we get into Jason asking questions, I kind of want to go over some of the overall things to make it easy for everyone to kind of put their head wrapped around things. Number one, sign-ups will be available starting tomorrow morning. Sign-ups for all middle schoolers, whether you're interested in cast or crew, whether auditions or crew interviews, will be outside of the middle school main office near the teachers' mailboxes. So that's where the sign-ups will be, all right? If you are a high schooler and you're interested in a design position, a lead position on tech crew, those sign-ups will be right outside of my room, which is behind the black box. Auditions and interviews will take place the week of November 9th. So Monday, November 9th will be crew interviews. They will be in the Performing Arts Center. And then Tuesday, November 10th and Wednesday, November 11th will be auditions for anyone interested in being in Charlie Brown. Those auditions will take place in the Performing Arts Center as well. If you've auditioned before, it's important that you listen to these next couple of things because they're very important. To keep down our number of people at the beginning of auditions, we normally teach the dance audition right at the beginning of the day. So it'd be like from 3:10 to 3:40, we would go over the choreography that you're going to learn for the audition. This year, Amy is going to teach it, and it's going to be on our YouTube channel. It won't be live, so won't have to worry about streaming at all. But it'll be on there, and you can learn it ahead of time. It's not on there yet, so please do not send me an email tomorrow being like, I didn't see the dance audition. The dance audition is not there yet. So I will send out a mass email. It will also be on the Highlands Theater page when it is available. It will be available by the end of this week. All right, so just so you know there. You will then dance in the audition in your grouping. So the way that we do it is when you sign up for a time slot, you're signing up for a half-hour time slot. So it would be 3:30, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30. And then what will happen is you'll come in and you will audition, and then at the end of that block of auditions, all of those people signed up at that time will come in and dance together. And it'll be the dance that'll be on the Highlands Theater website that they will learn. All right, so there is that. And then if we have callbacks, what callbacks are is a chance to sing from the script, to read from the script. We don't ask that you prepare anything, but that you be prepared to do anything. If we need callbacks, those are going to be on Friday after school, which is November 13th, Friday the 13th. Ooh. And then the cast and crew lists are going to go up Sunday by 5 p.m. Normally we do it Saturday, but we're doing it Sunday for completely personal reasons. It is my daughter's birthday party, and we have 2 of them on that Saturday, and trying to also pack in, trying to put up a cast and crew list is insane. So I'm going to leave the insanity for that Sunday. And then our first rehearsal will be that Tuesday after school, which would be the 17th, I think is what it is. All right? So those are kind of date things, just so you can kind of get that into your head. All of that stuff is in the packet, which is already online at highlandstheater.com. It's on the main page, and it's also on the show page, so you can find those there. It's also in the Schoology group. If you were a part of Oliver last year, you're already in the Schoology group. I just rename it because it's way easier to do it that way. There's not Oliver. There is a Charlie Brown Schoology group where you can go in there, and in the resources, that packet is there as well. So those are a couple of the date things. All right, now let's really quickly talk about the COVID things, because I think that's extremely important as well, that I know is on everyone's mind. We're right now in the middle of our production of Middletown, plug, which opens next Thursday. Come and see it. And so we've been practicing a lot of COVID things with that, and we will be utilizing those kinds of things for Charlie Brown as well. Some of those things are this. Everyone is going to be masked during the entire rehearsal process, cast or crew. If for some reason we have a major choreography number to where it is very labor intensive, there will be like mask breaks or something along those lines to let you catch your breath, or whatever. But if you're learning music, you'll be masked. I mean, if you're in choir, you've already been doing that. If you're learning choreography, you're going to be masked. If you're on crew, you're going to be masked all the time. In the pie in the sky world, the only time we would become unmasked would be the week of the show when you are on stage performing. So it would work that you're off stage, you're in your mask. The moment you're about to come on stage, you would either take out your mask off and put it in your pocket, or we will have basically a pegboard on each side of the stage with hooks to where you can put your mask on there, and then when you exit the stage, you put your mask back on. So that's the way it would be. All crews backstage will be masked the entire time. So once you're backstage, even as an actor, you will be masked. The only time you will not be masked is if you're on stage. If we are going down the road to where we are, on the verge of, high COVID cases or whatever, and the health department tells us, there are other options that we have. One option would be to continue to do the performance, but to do it masked. Another option would be to do the performance ahead of time, record it, kind of edit it together, and then stream it live. And then the last would be to kind of do like a radio play option, which we're not going to do for this show at all. The plan would be to have a live audience. If we have a live audience, it would be a limited live audience. Roughly around 150 people, which is right about 16, 17% of the Performing Arts Center. So 150 people could see the show, and then you could still watch the show live on a streaming platform. The streaming platform we're using is called On the Stage. It's really slick. It's really nice. And they do a really fantastic job. So that the ultimate would be is that we have a 150-person live audience, and then a streaming audience going at the same time, and that would be for all 4 performance nights, which are January 28th, 29th, 30th, and 31st. So that would be the plan overall. There would be temperatures taken. Here at the high school, we use the thermal scanner that is downstairs, so as you come in, Mr. Pertasser's been fantastic, and he's given me the password so that, like, one of us will just stand there as you come in and be like, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good, you're good. If on the thermal scanner you show a high reading, then we'll take a second temperature with one of the temperature guns to double check, and then if that's the case, then we'll send you home. We will be practicing social distancing. The only people that are going to be at rehearsals are the people that we need. With the show itself, we normally have, 40 to 50 people in a cast, and that's not going to happen with this show. And it's not because we don't love the middle schoolers and don't want a lot of them on stage, but if we have to think about spatial awareness and we have to think about students and their safety, that means we have to have less people on stage. So for this show, we're probably looking at more 20 to 30 people in the show. from a casting kind of standpoint. And I know that's a heartbreaker to some people. It's a heartbreaker to us as well because we want to give as many opportunities as possible. But if you said you can either do a show with roughly 30 actors or you can't do a show at all, I would much rather do a show with 30 actors. So I just want to let that be known there. The show is only written for 6. So, and that's a pretty big expansion. So the show is meant for Charlie, Lucy, Linus, Sally, Snoopy, and Schroeder is really what it's boiled down to. But we're going to expand it to create, and basically the rest of the cast are going to be those other Peanuts characters. So Woodstock, Peppermint Patty, Pigpen. Yes, someone's going to be Pigpen. Across the board. So I have already done like a lot of research on all of these secondary Peanuts characters, so I already have a list of all of them. So that's kind of the nuts and the bolts of like how we're going to do this COVID-wise, because I know that would be like the first thing on people's mind. And so before we get into how do you audition and all of that, I thought I'd spend a moment to talk about the COVID kinds of things.
And so really just, again, kind of a bigger topic, I'd love to hear just a little bit from you, Jason, about like what is this event? Why are we doing this? What are you hoping that students and parents can take away from tonight?
So normally we would do this in the Performing Arts Center, and we'd have like, 200 people in the Performing Arts Center listen to us talk and all of that. But of course we're doing it through this stream here. But the main reason that we're doing it is we want you to succeed. And that's why it's called Secrets of Success. We want you to succeed. This is not like, we're not like, oh, we're going to keep all the tricks in our bag and just show up and wing it and see what happens. The point of this is to talk about how do you do this successfully? Like, what are we looking for over show after show after show? I mean, between the three of us, we've been involved in like probably 200 shows. So, and that's very sad, but it's the truth. But we want you to know how to be successful, and that's what this is about. And so if you get to a point where you have a question, it's not being answered, put it in the chat. I'm watching right here on my screen, and I'm kind of got an angle so Jason can see it as well. But we want you to be successful, and that's the major point of this. And so please ask us questions. If we get to the end of this and we didn't answer your question, please email me. My email is extremely long, jason.burgess@fortthomas.kyschools.us, and I will get back to you as quickly as I can. Or you can do a Facebook message online with standing room only, SRO. Jason does a fantastic job of monitoring that. You can send us a message also at Highlands Theater's Facebook page, our Instagram page, our Twitter page. We're all over the place. So there are definitely ways that you can reach us if you have questions.
Okay, so that's already a lot of information. So I'm going to underscore something that Jason mentioned, which is there is an audition packet, and it's right now already on the Highlands Theater page. It's also going to be on Schoology within the Charlie Brown group. That's about a 10-page document. So it not only does it outline every step in the process and talk about what you need to do and when, and what you need to bring to your audition, and what you need to do to prepare for your audition, it also has a couple of pages of just helpful hints and things to think about. So I'd recommend that parents and students take a look at that packet together as you're starting to prepare over the next couple of weeks for your audition or for your interview, because that document is really chock full of good stuff. Okay, one of the things that I know families are thinking about right now as they get ready for the musical, especially if they haven't done it before, is how does this fit into my life? There's no schedule that's been published for how much time this is going to take. I'm doing cheer, I'm doing dance, I'm involved in archery. Will I be able to do that? And is it okay if I have other obligations? What if I can't make the rehearsal times? Can you talk a little bit about how you think about conflicts across the school calendar?
Yeah, so I actually take pride in this because this just happened to me this past week. So I'm gonna throw a shout out to Mr. Alessandro because he's awesome. This week, cross country, coming up this week. They're getting ready for their state meet, which is at the end of the week. It's on Friday. I have 2 students in my cast for Middletown of 12. So I have 2 of 12 that are in cross country. And my biggest thing is this. I'm not asking you to make this your only priority. I'm just saying it should be important as everything else. And as long as your coach or whomever is flexible and I don't want to say and collaborative, then we can make anything work. He is fantastic. But whatever you're doing from a schedule standpoint, as long as you let us know, then we can be honest with you and say, yes, we can do this. We can't do this. It's like the 1 week that is off limits as much as possible is Tech Week. But I will be honest, some of y'all have confirmation that week and you have to disappear. If we know ahead of time, we can work around anything. It's surprises I hate. I tell the students all the time, I hate surprises. Don't come in and then be like, oh, by the way, this is my last rehearsal, and then I'm out for a week. And I'm like, why? Now, someone will say, well, what about COVID? That's different. Like, if you come in and the school tells you, or you get a test and it's like, hey, I got COVID, I'm out. That's different. You didn't know that was going to happen. You wake up and you're sick and you don't come to school. That's different. You didn't know that would happen. I'm talking about, your conflicts coming up. You're going to be a part of basketball. So I know basketball, the tryouts are the exact same week as this. So I know that there are some people I don't know if I can do both. That's up to you and your family. That's as far as how busy you want to be. Like in our personal life, our daughter dances 5 days a week. And it's ridiculous, and she loves it, and so we make it work. But that's because we're willing to make it work. That's up to you and your family. But don't ever be like, well, I can't do it because they're not going to cast me because I'm too busy. Well, you don't know what we're going to do and how we're going to cast. So, and not everyone will be called every day. Yeah, we're definitely people that we don't, you are not there unless you are needed. We're not those people of every rehearsal, everybody's there, because then that's where chaos happens. People aren't paying attention. People get frustrated, and yada, da, 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 da. So the reason we don't make a schedule ahead of time is because I want to see your conflicts, so then I can let them know of hey, this is a major conflict. There's a choir concert I totally forgot about. We can't have a rehearsal that day. Those types of deals. So we make it, and it's hard on me. I mean, I'm not going to lie, to put a rehearsal schedule together in 2 days, but I'd rather know that and know all of the conflicts than the other way around.
I think that's what's key, right? If we have the visibility and we know what's going on with your schedule, we can work with that schedule. It's just when we don't know what's going on, it's hard to plan. So we have every year kids who participate in dance, cheer, sports. They're actively involved in theater, and it works great. So we want to work with you. You mentioned this will be a little bit of a smaller cast, about 30. Tell me a little bit about crew. A lot of folks aren't as familiar with the crew side. How many kind of crew roles are there, and what does it mean to be on the crew? What do you do if you're on the crew?
So yeah, as far as the crew is concerned, they might get trimmed a little bit, once again, just because, we don't need a big as costume crew if we only have 25 people in a show. But depending on the crews, we put you in there to learn things. So if you're on the lights and sound crew, you're learning how to microphone people. You're learning how to hang a lighting instrument. You're learning how our light board works. We want to give you opportunities to actually learn things and not just say, you're in the show, go. We put you to work, from a prop standpoint. There'll be so many props that need to be made for this show because it is Charlie Brown, and they're you can't find those things. We need, oversized things because even though you're middle schoolers, you're not little kids. So things need to look bigger so that it doesn't look the same size as you, okay? Because that adds to the humor and the fun nature of everything. But costumes crew, you're learning you're learning what they're going to wear and how do we take care of that from a makeup standpoint. How do you apply makeup? How do we make kids look younger? How's Snoopy going to look from a makeup kind of standpoint? Props, making props, taking props on and off stage. Set building. And set running crew, like you'll use some power tools and all that. Now don't worry, they're adults supervising, so it's not like, hey, here's a circular saw, go. No, they're adults around. But we give you opportunity. So it's not just a thing of like, we have a crew of 5 and they do things. No, we're very fortunate to have a crew of like 40. And they're really a part of the show, and they're very important.
So we might end up with around 75 cast and crew in this show, which is a good size. We've had some shows that have been even bigger than that. The reality is we sometimes have as many as 200, 250 students who express interest in the program. So that's sort of the real math of there's just no way everyone who wants to be in the production is going to be able to. And so that's why we are hoping this session will be useful in helping you put your best foot forward and to have as successful a process as possible. As you're thinking about making some of those hard choices, Jason, do you think about things like seniority? Like, are the 8th graders going to get the first shot at things? Like, how do you think about that?
Does somebody else want to talk?
I don't want to assume that I'm speaking for everyone up here, but I think we're all in agreement that the person who is most deserving of a role is the one who will get the role, irregardless of age. So I don't think we've ever had a conversation where like we had people who were up for a role and we were like, well, this person is an 8th grader, so clearly they should get it because they're in 8th grade, and this other person is in 7th. We do like, and we hope that there is sort of an equal smattering of people across all 3 grade levels when the show is cast. We'd rather have a fair amount of 6th graders, 7th graders, and 8th graders involved in the program, because that's important for the development of the kids and learning how to be on stage or backstage or off stage. It's also important for their peers to see something that they're doing, and you hope that it engages their friend groups to maybe want to come see the show and maybe look forward to being a part of something in the future as well. So we actively try and involve as many people in sort of an equal base across all 3 grade levels, provided that lots of people from those grade levels show up to audition. If there's no 6th graders to audition, it's sometimes hard to represent them. So.
Yeah, and the only other thing I'll say to that is every single year I can point to students who were 6th graders who got leads, or 7th graders who have gotten leads. Every year I think people go, oh, well, this show is pre-cast. And I'm like, that's so funny, especially at the middle school, because there are so many of you that we don't know at all. Mrs. Rowland knows the most, and even now she's gotten to the point of like, I don't know those people. It's like in my fall play right now, there are at least 2 students in the show that I wouldn't even known they would have auditioned because they weren't in the theater program really last year. So we're totally taking you when you come in for an audition in that moment and nothing before it.
So let's start getting to some of the pieces of the interviews. I know people are anxious to get to the meat and the hints. So let's start with music. And Beth, thank you so much for being here. You, of course, are the music director for the show and a big part of how we go through the audition process. So when you are singing, Beth's going to be listening, and I'm just curious, what are you listening for? So why don't you tell us a little about the solo part of the audition? Like, how long should someone sing? What do they need to bring? Sort of the basics. But I'm really interested to hear what it is you're looking for and what starts to pull students apart in terms of the better ones.
Okay, so preparation is key. Oh my gosh, my voice. Okay, so I've said to students before, just because you like something, just let it go from Frozen as your favorite musical song ever. That does not mean that you will sing it well. And sometimes I think kids get wrapped up in what they love, and we want you to like what you're auditioning with, but it really shows who has put thought into their audition song and has found something that their voice sounds good at. And as a 6th grader or a 7th grader or an 8th grader, that's not always easy to do. So I usually recommend to students, you can Google good audition songs for teenage girls or boys, and just start, I call it cleaning out your ears. Just start listening to things that either speak to you or that you feel comfortable that I can sing this. I could be successful with this. It's also important, and this is where you might need parental help or even me or somebody that's like a voice, has some voice familiarity. Once you know your song, is it in a key that is good for your voice? And you can change that. So there's a website called musicnotes.com where you can buy sheet music to give to the accompanist, which is usually me, and you can choose what key you want a song to be in. So if there's something that you really like, but you're like, it's just a little high, then just bring it down a key or two, and it might be more comfortable for you. And if that's too much to try and figure out, then just choose a song that you feel showcases your voice. Also, you don't have to start a song at the beginning. A lot of people like, Part of Your World from Little Mermaid. But the whole look at this stuff, isn't it neat part, is not really the best part of that solo. So, sure, you can start there, but you have to ask yourself, is this the part of the song that's really going to show what I can do? You will sing 16 to 32 measures. So if you're counting the bars of music, look for 16 to 32 measures. Understand that you may be cut off before you're fully finished. And there have been times where people finish their audition and we're still writing or listening, and then you stand there. It's totally fine. You just have to prepare that 16 to 32 measures of a song. We ask that it be a song from a musical, and we also would advise you to listen to the Charlie Brown music and think of musicals that have songs in sort of that same style. So if you come in and you're doing some big dramatic, sad sort of solo, it doesn't always fit the theme of the show that you're doing. I don't know. So that also takes some thought. So I think in general, the impress us the most are ones that have just, it's not the song itself that they've chosen, it's the amount of preparation and thought that they put into it. You can audition with a song in two ways. You can bring sheet music and I'll play the piano part while you sing, or you can find on YouTube or iTunes a karaoke version, a track that you would sing with. And you bring in your phone or your MacBook, your iPad, wherever that music is, and we can plug it in and you can sing with that. We don't have a preference, I would say, whether you use the live piano or the accompaniment. We would ask, though, that you have some sort of accompaniment. Because if you're trying to do it a cappella, sometimes the nerves get the best of you, and it's hard, or we can tell you're not on pitch quite correctly. Sometimes when you don't have that accompaniment, it actually is detrimental to your audition. Is that it?
Okay, so let me underscore a couple things you just said there, because I think it's really important. One is showcase what you're best at. So and it goes the other way too. If there's a song where you sound amazing in the middle, but you have trouble with the end, don't sing the end. Just pick that middle section, the part that you can do really, really well, and make sure it's in the right key, which I love. That's a great website. The other thing I took away from what you said is we want to be able to imagine you in this show. So when you come in and you're belting like Les Mis, that might be good, but I don't really know how to think about it. You're making the job harder for us to figure out, are you going to fit into the show? So might it be a good idea then to just pick a song from Charlie Brown and sing that, because you can really imagine how that fits into the show?
Generally, we say to not do that. And it's because if you sing a song from the show, then that sort of boxes you into that role. So you're in here singing for a certain part, and maybe you're great, or maybe you're okay-ish, but then that's sort of what we'd rather do with you in callbacks, and have you sing that song or two, if we want to hear that. But in general, I'd say no. Pick a song from another show that might be similar in style, because then we can imagine you, having heard your voice, as maybe a couple different characters from the show. And some people may disagree with that, but in general, we've had success with that approach, to just not pull one specifically from the show.
Really quickly, because there have been a couple of questions, you can totally bring the music with you, on your computer or your iPhone if you want. That's completely fine. We just ask that you have it queued up and ready to go. And then the next thing I saw was like, can I bring the lyrics with me when I audition? If you want to bring the sheet music and hand it to Mrs. Rowland to play, but we don't want anyone standing with the music in their hands, because then you're not acting at all, you're just reading words on a page. So we want you to be memorized, both with the monologue and the song.
And also, I'd say use your resources. And I consider myself to be one of those resources. So if you have the sheet music and you want to hear me play it before your audition, or you know someone who can play piano for you, I'm happy to help with that. Or you can ask someone if you have someone in your circle that can do that. So I've also asked students to bring their phones or bring their MacBooks, and then I can record myself playing the accompaniment so you can go home with that and practice. And it also gives me a little familiarity with the sheet music that you're going to bring to your audition, so we're not just showing up that day. Now, it's fine if you don't, but I'm willing to help. So usually, like if you send me a Schoology message, we can find a day after school. You stop in, sit together, and I'm not trying to coach you up for your audition, but we can mark in the music what you want to do. We can record it, and then it's to your advantage because you practiced beforehand.
So you mentioned someone might sing part of your world from The Little Mermaid, which is like if you know that movie, like Ariel's got a lot going on while she's singing that song. Should I, if I'm auditioning, stand in front and stay still while I sing, or should I move around a little bit? Like, you want me to act it up a little, or should I save my acting for the other parts of the interview, other parts of the audition process?
You should act. Yes, please. I mean, I have this complaint about choir at times, and I know Miss Rowland does. Like, when you just stand there and sing, even if it is lovely and you do nothing, it is boring. It is boring. So, yes, please act for us. Don't bring in props. Don't bring in a telephone with you, or a dog bowl, or a fork, a Splendor waffle, or whatever they say in Little Mermaid. Don't bring things with you. But yes, act. We want to see what it is you can do. I would rather you overact and be way too big than give us nothing. Because if you give us a lot, then I'm like, okay, we got to pull you back a little bit. But we can't make you act. So yes, when you come in, really be doing your best to perform for us. This is another one I got really quickly, is when you're auditioning, we are going to let you have the option to take your mask off for your audition, because you will be the only one in the room with us. We will be all masked at the table and at the piano. So if you would like to perform without your mask, we are fine with that. But we are also okay if you would like to keep your mask on for the audition.
I want to come back to something that you said, Beth, which is not singing something from the show because it might lock you into a role. If I have a role in mind that I'm excited about, like I've watched the show and I feel like I have such Snoopy energy, I want you to think about me for Snoopy. How is the right way for me to make that known that I feel like that's something that I would be really well suited for? Where in the process do I talk about what I would love to have or what I think I'd be best at?
I think the answer to that question lies in what material you choose for your audition. So if you think that you are cut out for Snoopy, then you should find a monologue that is about an animal, like being an animal and talking as an animal, or it should be about a relationship of like a kid and a dog, or find a character trait that you think is exclusive to the character you're interested in. Charlie Brown is kind of known as being this sad sack of a kid. and if you think that you are cut out to be Charlie Brown, then perhaps you find a monologue that sort of exhibits those same qualities without it being from the show. Same with the song, where if you know that you are like, I just want to be Sally so badly, and what should I sing? Find something that sounds like Sally, or that is a song which would heighten a character trait like Sally. And it's we're not dumb. Like we pick up on all of those very like astute choices. I mean, people will leave the room and we'll be like, oh, they're definitely going for this role. They didn't have to write it down anywhere, but we could tell by the material that they chose that they were very interested in one particular role. Do you always get that role? No, not always. But there's no harm in preparing an audition with a certain role in mind. Just know sometimes the people sitting behind the table see it differently than you. So
let's jump to the monologue portion. So I think one of the really fundamental things people struggle with is like, where do you get a monologue? Like, what do you mean by a monologue? Where do I even find that? Have you found there to be good resources available that would help kids along in terms of trying to find something to be a good fit for this show?
Yes. So, in the high school especially, some in the middle school, but in the high school, there's a whole section of monologues. So you could find a monologue in the high school library. You can also find them online. But here's a couple of things to keep in mind. One, don't tell us a story. Like, you should be going for something. You know, telling the story about how your dog died doesn't really show us anything other than you can tell a story. You should do a monologue to where your character wants something. It would be like you're talking to that person, but that person's not physically there with you. All right? It's like I'm talking to a camera like I am speaking to another human being, but there is not a human being there. I am talking to a camera. None of you can respond to me. You can text me, but you can't talk to me. Okay? That's the kind of monologue you need to find. Something that is what we call has an objective it is worth fighting for, not a story. Don't pick a monologue where you're on the phone. Okay? Neverland 911 is the worst monologue ever invented. Do not do that one. And if you're like, oh my gosh, I've done that one before. We don't judge you. We don't judge you. Just don't do it again. All right? Don't do a monologue from Charlie Brown. You know, the hanger sculpture is a very popular monologue to do. A sea. Don't do that. Yes. Do something that highlights you. If you're loud and you're big and you're energetic, do something that's loud and big and energetic. Someone asked, could Snoopy be a girl? Snoopy could be a girl. Snoopy could be a boy. It's like that role is very gender fluid. It could go in either direction. So
I think monologue is really challenging because you're asking to pretty quickly memorize a fairly large passage, and that, of course, takes preparation and practice. But then the nerves kick in. And so as you step on the stage and you start to give your monologue, and there's a trip up, or you get lost in the material, what's your recommendation? Is it better to stop, start over, and fix it, or just fake it till you make it?
So auditioning is the worst part. Like, auditioning is the worst part. I always say all the time, if I can perform for 500 people in a dark theater, that is so easy. But performing in front of like 4 people is terrifying. It's terrifying. So you're going to screw up. So here are a couple things to keep in mind. One, you screw up, just plow through it. We will respect you more because we know you're churning. We know the brain's churning, and you're plowing and you're trying. Keep going. Don't start over, because now what you're doing is you're actually putting more pressure on yourself, because in your brain you're like, well, I just had to start over, so now I have to be better. And now there's a better chance you're actually going to lose more words because you started back over. So just keep going forward. That's one. 2, the way you can control your lines is have it memorized a week before the audition. If you are memorizing the night before, or the day of, I'm going to tell you right now, the odds are not going to be in your favor. All right? And I'm not saying that from a casting standpoint, because you're going to be nervous. Everyone's going to be nervous. We want you to succeed. We want you to make our jobs hard. That's what we want. We want to be like, oh my gosh, we have 5 Charlie Browns. What do we do? We have 5 Snoopies. What do we do? Learn your stuff ahead of time, way ahead of the time. That way it gets into your long-term memory and it's stuck there. There are monologues that I still know from 20 years ago, and my high school students make fun of me because I'll use them as class examples, and they're like, you always use that one. I'm like, because I still remember it. So learn your monologue way in advance, and then that way it's just stuck in there.
And also, and maybe this is me not being like an acting teacher per se, but I have no idea how many lines are in your monologue. So when I'm sitting at the piano and I'm listening to you, if you just skipped 2 lines, but you kept right on going and it was convincing, I probably will never know the difference. And even in the song, if you're singing and you accidentally sing the second verse instead of the first, that's really not what we're looking at. We're like looking more for the quality and the performance aspect than the actual words. And somebody is, I've had students say, well, I messed up a whole line. I'm like, I can guarantee you that Mr. Burgess had no idea. That was not what he was looking at. So some people get really hung up on, I missed a line or I messed up the word. But if you're really being a good actor, that doesn't really matter. It's selling the material to us and acting the material. And kids sometimes get tripped up on those little tiny details, and it's not the little details, it's the package that you're putting together.
And it's okay if you paraphrase. Like, you change a word. Yeah. You change a the to a them or whatever. As long as it grammatically makes sense, like, we're not going to know. That's why if you know your monologue ahead of time, then it's easier for you to, like, make things up on the spot because you know what the essence of your monologue is, because you have it ingrained in your brain. Where you get into trouble is when you learn it right at the last minute, and then you really don't know it that well, you just know the words. So.
Yeah, no one nails it because they got all the words 100% accurate, right?
Your memorize is not a great, thing to write down.
Yes, memorize. Okay, so I'm going to also connect the dots between what you said earlier, Beth. I assume that when it comes to the audition, if you feel like this is the part where I should be shaking my fist or I should be stomping my feet, you want to see some of that acting in the monologue itself.
1,000%. 1,000%. Yes, make choices. Make choices.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about dance. I know a lot of people are so uncomfortable and nervous about the dance. So before we get into kind of the tips and tricks on dancing, can you just make clear again, so how's this going to work in the COVID environment? How are you doing dance auditions this time?
So yes, we're going to stay masked. We did some shows this summer. We wore masks the entire time, and let me tell you, it was some aerobic choreography. I don't want to say that I'm unsympathetic, but I have a job which requires me to wear a mask in extreme heat, so I don't really have a lot of sympathy about I'm so hot. You can do it. You're going to be fine. So yeah, we will be masked. I will make sure that you get mask breaks so that you are not huffing and wheezing on the stage. We will try and stage all of the choreography as much as we can with social distancing in mind. There are obviously some points where that is not going to happen. Exchanges of props between characters or interactions, that have to happen in a certain fashion to require a little bit of proximity, but we're gonna do our best as a ensemble when we are doing dance numbers to keep everybody in a safe fashion so that we're all forward facing together and there aren't people singing straight at each other's faces and spitting on each other. So I'm very mindful of those things as I go to choreograph this show. And if you are having any issues in terms of trying to learn the choreography while wearing a mask, then you should come talk to us. We're here to help. I'm not trying to land somebody in, the clinic for an asthma attack because they couldn't breathe while we were dancing. So you should come talk to us and we'll make it work.
So for the audition, you're going to be posting a video. And so the expectation is that kids will come in, and are they dancing by themselves or in a small group? Okay, so there'll be a small group of people dancing. So put yourself in the shoes of new sixth grader, no dance experience. They're looking at the video. How do you prepare? Like, what steps should they go through to be ready for that dance audition?
I will say that doing video dance auditions is not my favorite, and Mr. Burgess asked if this was what we should do for this go-around of the middle school show, and I sort of begrudgingly said, yes, I think it is. And I'll say the reason I don't like video auditions is because I think it puts a lot of stress on you as the person auditioning to try and learn something at home without really having the advantage of asking questions on the spot or looking at anyone else who seemingly is picking it up faster than you and being able to be like, oh, I understand that better because the person in front of me is doing it. So I think it is hard. And that being said, this is the safest way that we felt that we could teach the dance audition, because normally on any given day of auditions for the middle school, there's approximately 50 to 60 kids that show up to audition. And that's an awful lot of people to squeeze into a small room and be dancing. So we do this out of safety for you. As far as being nervous and scared about the dance audition, I will record like the dance audition in its entirety so that you can see it all put together. And then I will record it like 8 count by 8 count. So I'll break it down and I will verbally talk to you in the video like, you're going to use your left foot and you're going to do a pas de bourrée. So you're going to step back, side, side. So like I will walk you through verbally as much as I possibly can. I really, really advise you to pay attention to the words that I am using. So when I say things like, use your left foot, if you are looking at your screen and you're like, yeah, but it looks like maybe it's right, go ahead and do what I'm saying you should do, because when you get in the room with the 10 or 15 other people and they're all doing it the reverse of you, you'll be like thrown for a loop then that you learned it wrong. And I'm not going to judge you if you do it all in reverse. It's okay. You learned it on a video, but pay attention to the words that I'm saying, because that is the key to doing it correctly. We'll also have a really like short moment before the auditions start on each day, so that if you have questions that you like legitimately could not figure out by watching the video, or am I doing this step correctly, there will be a short period of time where you can come in and ask those questions. But I do want to warn you that that is not a learning time. It's not the time when you come in and go, okay, teach me the dance, because that will not be happening.
Yeah, so basically from like 3:05 each audition day to 3:25 will be about 20 minutes where Amy will be available to answer any questions that you have. And I know you're like, but the bell rings at 3:05. You're right, it does. We have to get started with auditions at 3:30. So it's like that 20-minute time is for her to answer questions, not teach you the material.
I know that some folks do have dance training, and so that's, of course, going to be helpful, right? But they may not be asked to show what they're best at. So if you're somebody who knows how to tap, knows how to do a backflip, knows how to do something special from a dance or acrobatic standpoint, is there a way that they can make that known to you, or should they let you know that?
Yeah, they should, if you have special skills like acro or tap dancing or juggling or whatever you got in your back pocket, I can double Dutch jump rope, I don't know, whatever. The sky is the limit in this show. So if you have any of those special skills, definitely write them down on your audition form. We read those. I know maybe you think that they're like a paperweight of some kind, but we really do look at them. And I try and utilize people's strengths as much as I possibly can in the context of the show whenever I'm able to. So if I know I have somebody that can do acro, I will absolutely capitalize on that and try and find a place to put that in the show. Or if I have somebody that can juggle, then I'm going to make them walk across the stage juggling for a pass or something. So yeah, definitely be forthcoming if there is stuff that you can do that we're not going to see in the course of the audition.
There's a but make sure you know how to do it, because we've had students before that think that they can sell themselves a little better because I can roller skate, and then we get out the roller skates and they may have skated in their grandma's basement at one point, but now on stage, it doesn't work. So, like, truly, we're looking for talent, but be honest. If you really can't do gymnastics, don't try, like, for us.
I had a former student who put down on her special skills on her audition sheet that she could tap dance. And there was tapping in the show that we were casting for. And so we cast her as a tap dancer in this show. And she came to me the first rehearsal for that song, and she said, I might have over-exaggerated that I was any good at tap. And I said, well, it looks like you're going to spend the next couple of weeks getting really good at it. So don't put yourself in a situation that you wind up being even more stressed because you lied.
So this definitely applies to dance, but I think actually all the areas. One thing that I'd say makes a big difference is you got to buddy up. If you are auditioning for the show, find somebody to work on this with. It can make such a difference just to have a couple other people who are also trying to figure out the dance at the same time, where you can go to each other's houses and practice it a little bit to say, like, oh, well, I'm not doing it that way. Why are you doing that way? You start to catch some of the things. When you're doing things in isolation, it can be really hard to catch the things you aren't getting quite right. Still today, our kids will sing their songs for us, and they will do their monologue for us, and they hate it. But they also know that it can't be said for the first time out loud when they're standing in front of Jason. You've got to actually really do it if you're going to practice. You've got to do it in front of people. Don't let it be the first time you do it when you're standing in front of this crew.
Doesn't have to be mom or dad. And like, I have a 6th grader now myself, and I might be the last person that she wants to practice in front of. Because we're just at that point where, like, she doesn't want to do it for mom and dad. That's fine. Then go pick your favorite cousin, or go for grandma and grandpa, or your best friend who will be honest and not just say, it's good. Like, is it really good? Or I could not understand your words. Or I felt like this song was sort of all over the place. Like, someone who will give you honest feedback, and then you use that feedback to improve yourself. So it is apparent to us, usually for students who come in who have clearly rehearsed this in front of a mirror, in front of people, and who seem just more comfortable than people that walk in that look like it's truly going to be the first time they've ever performed this monologue or this song. And I feel for you, because that is terrifying. So do that before you walk in the door to audition.
Yeah, I like that point on parents, because we're also not always the best judges in terms of giving honest feedback, right? So I will tell you, if you have a middle school student who's looking for help and looking for an extra set of eyes, I would recommend you find a way to reach out to the high school theater department. Talk to the drama club. They are so excited and energized about supporting the middle school show. They get as excited, if not more excited, about being in the middle school show than doing the high school show, especially this one, because it's such a fun show. They want these kids to be successful too. So if you have an in with somebody from that program, ask them to be an objective judge and to provide some feedback. Go through a mock audition. If you don't have that connection, then talk to Jason, talk to me. We can help you make that connection back to the high school program. They're a great resource. They've been in those shoes. They know. And so they, in a very genuine way, can tell you, like, you're messing up because I did the same thing, and don't make the same mistakes that I did. Okay. So in terms of dance, as you've seen people audition for dance, are there a couple things you say, like, these are very common mistakes that I see that are correctable?
I would say, especially for this show, it's really important that you embody a character. And the physicality of this show is so important because you are a cartoon. Like, you are a cartoon strip. And so I would be cautious about coming in with, like, your dance team level of confidence about doing dances. There's a certain like a precision about, like, performance teams or dance teams that sort of gets beat into you as a dancer, and that kind of style is not this show at all. This show is way more accepting of sort of you adding your own little flair on things because it's all about everybody's individual sort of quirks as a character. I mean, you've got Pigpen that definitely like marches to his own drummer. You've got Lucy, who is like nails in terms of like precision and accuracy. You've got Linus, who's gonna like pontificate and wander around stage for a long time. So like everyone has their own sort of persona, and I would say by and large, being able to act while you dance is a really important characteristic in the show. And for the audition, you can either choose to act as a character that you like in this show and be like, oh, I'm imagining that I'm Marcy right now, and I'm gonna dance like Marcy would dance, or you can be you and think about like, how would I be a little kid in this show? What would that look like as I do this dance? And I think that is the sweet spot for like how you go about nailing the dance audition. It's not really about technical accuracy or like precision of counts necessarily, but far more about character and acting choices, I think.
Right. So one of the things I'm taking away from all your comments: act while you're acting, act while you're dancing, act while you're singing, act, act, act. We want to see characters come to life on this stage. Energy and enthusiasm goes a long way, right? Right. You can actually do something technically perfect, but if you don't bring any energy to it, then you're probably behind the person who was maybe a little shaky technically, but was like so in it to win it, right? Okay. I want to spend a little bit of time, we're getting close to the end of our time, talking about crew. So a lot of folks don't know as much about the crew positions. We are going to have interviews. This might be a student's very first interview. Can you just talk about like what happens in that room? What are you guys talking about? How do you prepare for this? How do you succeed in the interview process?
So the biggest thing that when people hear an interview, I think that, oh, it's fine. Like, we have stage lights, so like, sorry, the lights in the black box like automatically go off, but we have stage lights on, so it's totally fine. People hear interview and they start freaking out because they're like, oh gosh, do I need to dress in a suit or something? No, you do not. The interview is about us getting to know you. The fourth and fifth members of this team are Kyle Tiemann, who is the technical director, and Laura Martin, who's the costume designer. And they don't know you guys because they're not employed here. I don't know any sixth graders because I don't teach sixth grade. I only know some of the seventh graders because the first quarter just ended, so I don't know a lot of them yet. So the interview allows us to get to know you. And we're getting to know your likes and your dislikes. So I ask you questions of like, what kind of crew are you interested in? Why are you interested in that kind of crew? What kind of crew are you not interested? Why? I'll be honest with you. I'm also like vibing you out. Like, you know, if you're in the room and you're just like, oh, la, 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 or like, oh, I love cheese. Oh my gosh, I love cheese, Mr. Burgess. I go, okay, different. Do I want this kind of different on my crew? So I'm getting to know you as a human, but I also use it as times like, do you have questions for us? Do you want to know what it really means to be in the light sound crew? You know, and so the interviews are more of a get to know than it is like you must have the right answers to the question.
I think one of the most surprising things for me as a new parent when I had middle schoolers was realizing that everything that happens backstage and around the stage from a technical standpoint is all student-led. Like, zero parents. No parent volunteers, no staff, just like you're sitting in the audience watching with everybody else because they're running it. So yes, you have to be able to demonstrate that you're ready to step up and be in charge and be responsible, because you are going to be responsible. You're going to be responsible for a lot, and which is why it's such a growthful experience. So if we have folks who would really love to be in the cast, but really they just want to make sure they're in the show because they want to have the experience, do you recommend auditioning and interviewing, or should they pick one or the other?
I would prefer that the people that are interviewing are like, I really want to be in the crew. Because I understand, we all understand that for a lot of you, the ultimate would be to be on stage acting. And we get that. All right? But there are equally a number of students in the middle school who, like, they would love to just be on the light sound crew. They would love to be in the costume crew. And I want to make sure we're giving opportunities to those students, and we're just not taking, the people that, didn't have the greatest audition, and now they're going to be on the costume crew. It's nothing against you. It's just, we're very fortunate to have a program to where a lot of students are interested. We're very grateful for that. But we also want to make sure that it's just like, it isn't the kid's last choice to be on crew, and so they're just on crew. Because honestly, a lot of times, that person's not the most desirable person during a tech week, and they're sitting around going, well, I could do that better than them on stage. And then, like, it just creates animosity and hurt feelings and tension. That's already a tense situation because it's tech week. And so I really prefer the students that are going to sign up for interviews are really interested in crew. If you're auditioning, on the form it says, are you interested in crew? And you can say yes, and you can say what you're interested in. And that way we know, but then you don't have to interview.
I think it's tough because it's easier to imagine what it's like to be in the cast on the stage. Like, you get it. Like, I'm going to stand there and I'm going to sing and I'm going to act. I don't really know what the crew is like, so I don't know if I would like that or not. What are the kind of qualities that people tend to like about crew positions? Who tends to gravitate to those roles and fall in love with them?
So, I mean, it depends. Like, if you're into fashion, then costumes is your thing. But what I will say is like, I don't want to give you false hope and be like, great, you're going to just sit around and make costumes. No. Like, you're going to be in charge of organizing costumes and pulling costumes. And, yeah, there might be some creativity, but there's also going to be some, like, not creative things, as is with all crew positions. If you're into technology, then licensed sound is more of the area you want to be in. If you're really into, like, creation with your hands, I would say props or set construction. If you're in set construction, it's not like you come to the work days that we have and you just stand there. We give you, like, cordless drills, and you're learning how to screw things in, and you're painting and all of that. So, I would just say, like, it's not, the crews are not a place to where it's like, you're just going to be a part of it. Like, you're just going to be there. Like, you're going to be doing it. House crew. I know some people are like, oh, I'm not a big part of house crew, but I look at the house crew as so important because you are the people that I am entrusting talking to the audience. Like, they are the like, you are an extension of me and the theater program. So, like, you're in charge of programs. You're in charge of decorating the lobby. You're in charge of the candygrams and what they look like. And so it's actually, like, all of the positions are very important. And so I want people that find it very important and they want to make it better. Not just do what we do, but potentially have an idea to make it even better. So all of them have creativity, but it's just in different ways. It's looking at your skill set and being like, oh, I'm technical, so I'm going to go in this direction. I'm more, like, into makeup and clothing, so I'm going to go in this direction.
Summarize what the crews are.
Oh, yeah. The crews are, so you have props crew, you have costumes and makeup crew, you have the set deco, set construction, set running crew, that's all one crew. You have the lights and sound crew, which is just one crew, they're just together. And then you have the house crew. I think those are the five.
So we're just about out of time. I want to give you each a little bit of time just to share more of a summary. So what is the parting wisdom you'd like to share as folks are thinking about and preparing for either their interview for the crew or for auditioning for the cast? What do you think are the most important things you would hope they would walk away from this conversation with that you really want to take an opportunity to say one more time?
I would say be confident in your choice. So once you pick a song or you pick a monologue, don't worry about what other people are singing. Or I heard so-and-so was going to sing the same song. It doesn't matter. If that is the song that you've chosen and that is best for you, get to practicing it, get to memorizing it, get comfortable with it, and don't worry about what other people are doing or start second-guessing yourself. Because people who are very well prepared and very well practiced usually have a fairly good audition. And then just be prepared. So if you need to bring me your music, you find your accompaniment, you find the karaoke soundtrack, just start practicing like tomorrow. Just get to work and work hard, because it doesn't start at the audition, it starts now, preparing for that audition. So, and if you need advice, that's fine. If I can't decide between this song or this song, that happens. I can try and help you with that. But make a good choice and stick with it and get to work.
I will second what you said. Be prepared. There is no way that you could practice this too much. There is no way you could practice the dance too much. There's no way you could practice your monologue too much. Like, the more you do it, the better you will feel about it the day you come. So it is your job right now to take all of the nerves out of that day that you possibly can. And the things you can control are how prepared you are. The thing you can't control is how talented the people next to you are. You have no control over that. You can only control how prepared you are, and that, knowing that you are prepared, will take all of that worry out of your brain that day. So you can merely be worried about, like, oh, am I the right person for this role? I hope they liked what I did. And that's a far better place to be in terms of worry than, like, I didn't remember anything I was supposed to do. I wonder if they will even call me back.
Be honest. Like, be honest in your abilities. Be honest in your interviews. Don't try and be something that you're not. Showcase who you are as a human being. Like, the end. If you're not the greatest singer, but you're an amazing dancer, don't choose a song that you know you can't hit the notes to. Choose a song that you know is going to showcase your ability. I always say, we can use callbacks to decide if you can really sing or not. You know? You want to try and dupe us in the audition? That's all fine and well. Go for it. You know, as long as it's in your skill set. Okay? So a couple of questions I've got on the chat, and I said I would answer these live, is one is, Chris, you asked, if there are a limited number of kids on each crew, how do you decide who gets the spot? Well, that's one of the reasons we use the interviews really well. If the interviews kind of pare it down some and I need to go further, I might talk to some of their teachers, send them an email of like, hey, and I won't say, I'm between these two people, which would you choose? I'd be like, hey, I'm interested in this person. Can you tell me a few things about them? You know, I might get on into campus and look at like their absences or their discipline record or anything along those lines, just to help it out. I want as much information as possible because like, there are going to be hurt feelings. No, not everyone's going to be cast, and I want to make sure that I'm making an informed decision, not just a decision on a whim. Charlotte, you'd asked a question for like, you know, if you were an Oliver, does that give you a leg up? And the answer is no, it doesn't. And that's not because, but it isn't a negative either. We don't look at you and be like, well, you were an Oliver, so you had your chance. We're moving on, you know. It's more of that we are, if we do that, then we're being unfair to the new people to give you a leg up because you were part of the show last year, okay? The only time that I would ever say that a previous show could come back and bite you is if you were a mean person. Like, if you were not a good person to work with and everyone knows of, like, how difficult you were, we remember those things. And it's not a thing from we're holding a grudge. It's just, oh, that was difficult. Do we want that difficulty again? That's what it boils down to. Yeah. And if you got a lead last year, you're not guaranteed anything this year. So don't be like, well, I was this last year and they know who I am. Yeah, but you're middle schoolers and you changed so much in 6 to 9 months that your range was here and then it went to here in 6 months because you got a growth spurt. So don't don't come in being like, well, I was like this last year. You know, I'm good to go. So in the cast, 25 to 30, thank you. There'll be paper signups. Yeah, for my fall play, I did digital. For this, I'm going to be paper because, no offense, there are way more people involved, and I can just imagine the amount of emails I'd get of like, well, where's the site again? How do I get to it? So it's just really easy to be like, if you're a middle schooler, the sign-up sheet is right outside the middle school office. If you're a high schooler, it's right outside of my room. Kate, no, we're not looking for any certain ages and characters. They're open to anybody, 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, just because, I mean, this is actually good. It doesn't matter how tall you are or short you are because you're all playing the same kind of age. So it's not like, oh, that person's really tall, we can't use them. Well, you're all playing kids that are younger than you, so that doesn't really matter. Flynn, that's a great question. Is there a separate procedure for those doing remote learning? Since the auditions are after school, if you're a remote learner, you're totally allowed to come into school, like with Luke temperature checks for auditions and crew interviews like we did anything else. If you are uncomfortable coming in, this is where it gets a little tricky. Like, you're going to be rehearsing and have work days, so at some point you're going to have to come in. So it's like, I'm fine for you submitting a video audition. However, like, my first question is going to be, like, if I want to call you back, can you come in the building? Because I'm not going to do a video callback. And you have to come to rehearsal. So as a remote learner, you are not barred from coming in. You can totally come in. If you can't come in to sign up, you just send me an email and I will sign you up. Like, I'll put you in a time slot, and that's no big deal whatsoever. So yeah, the auditions are online. The papers, as far as the packet is online. As far as the sign-ups, they're in 10. You just need to send me an email personally if you're a remote learner, and I will talk you through like what the time slots are and where you could sign up and all of that. But my biggest thing overall is be yourself, know your limitations, know your talent. Don't come in and be like, I am Idina Menzel, and I can rock out some Let It Go, because you can't. And that's not because, like, you're a bad singer. It's like there aren't that many Idina Menzels in the world. That's the point. And none of you, your voices have not finished growing. So, like, if you could hit those notes, you're shouting them. You're not singing them. So do what you do best. Be honest. She kind of does it. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and you mentioned there might be hurt feelings, so as we sort of close things down, what advice do you have for the folks who don't get in, who don't get what they wanted, and there's going to be disappointment around that?
Be grateful and thank the people that were involved in your audition. So thank Mrs. Rowland, thank Mr. Burgess, or myself, or Kyle, whoever you come in contact with. And then ask them for any advice about how you can get better. And honestly, if you can have that conversation and take away whatever advice somebody gives you, and then you come back the next time to audition or to interview, that speaks volumes to us that you did not get deterred by not getting something that you wanted. And you came with an open mind and willingness to learn and get better, because that is what this process is supposed to be about. It is supposed to be educational. It is supposed to be about learning how to do things better and how to improve ourselves. And so if you can come to us with a little bit of open mind to hear some critique and some feedback about how you could improve for the next time, all of us are more than willing to share that information with you. We will sit down and have a conversation about why or why not, how decisions were reached, things that you could have done better, and we will be very forthcoming with that information if you are interested.
We all take notes, so it's like and it's not like, oh my gosh, this is horrible. Like, we're taking constructive notes. It's like, oh, they're off key, they're off pitch, they're behind the tempo a little bit, they're struggling with the words. This wasn't a great song choice, whatever. So we keep those things in mind on purpose for that reason. This is educational theater. We want you to get better. Yeah, you don't make it, take a voice lesson, take an acting lesson, take some dance classes, those types of deals. From a crew standpoint, think about, what can I do? I really want to be on the set crew next year. ooh, I'm going to do some projects to where I learn how to build some stuff, and then I can come in and say, I built a bench or whatever, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, you have building experience. This is amazing. In every facet, there's a way to sharpen your skills so that you look more marketable and you look better.
Excellent. So thank you all very much, all three of you. Thank you for the time. We have this event at least 2 weeks out before the auditions. We want it to be actionable. We want this to be useful for you right now. You have a couple of weeks. Get those auditions picked, get those songs selected, because you need to start working on them, and so that you're not trying to memorize at the last minute. But you have plenty of time, but you do need to get to work. Any last closing questions that came up here? All right. Thank you all very much for your patience with our technical challenges. We went ahead and took the full time anyway, because we wanted to make sure you weren't shortchanged on information. And we know we didn't answer all the questions, or you may have questions that come up tomorrow after you thought about this a little bit. This is a two-way conversation all the time. Reach out to anyone here on this panel. You can reach out to me, and I will make sure you get directed to the person who can help you. We want to help you answer your questions throughout this process. Thank you all for tuning in, and good luck in the audition process. Break a leg.